Umbrella Academy is a show that is loved by many people, yet with the release of Season 4 not that long ago, that seems to have changed. There are numerous reasons for this, but the one we're going to talk about today is the characters of the show, and how the fans believe they have been changed and mistreated in this season. As someone who enjoyed Season 4, I want to give my 2 cents on the situation, and tell you why I kind of disagree with that statement. And I do believe this was done on purpose, but we'll talk more on that later. Before we start, if you are new to the channel, please subscribe. I make videos on Umbrella Academy, as well as other popular shows, such as Doctor Who, Supernatural, The Boys. So if you like them, I'm sure you will like the other content I put out as well. So the common consensus from this season is that everyone believes all of our characters are completely out of character, saying they're not even remotely close to how they were at the end of Season 3. Some of them are even unhappy despite saving the world. And I won't argue with this statement, that is true. These characters have changed quite a lot, but many people are forgetting that there was a 6-year time jump at the start of the season, and I feel like that is a vital piece to this puzzle. With that in mind, let's take a look at our characters and see how they became the way they are. Let's start with Lila. She is one of the most controversial characters of this season. In this 6-year time gap, she formed a relationship with Diego, as we would expect. Despite having this relationship for 6 years, there is tension between them. Things are not going great, and Lila really hates her stay-at-home life. As a result, she is secretly doing missions for the CIA. In the season, we see Diego mistake this for her cheating with somebody, which is obvious. He's going to do that because there's friction between them. After this confrontation, we get both her and Diego complaining to each other about whose life is worse, even though they both originally wanted this normal life, causing them to question their life together, and Lila even says they should take a break. Lila has always been a character in this show that is manipulative and selfish, so to me at least, everything so far makes perfect sense, even when she gets into her own version of the Ross situation when she gets with Five. Now, she was trapped in the multiversal railway for 6 whole years with no hope of escape, and only started this relationship 5 years into those 6. With the distance between her and Diego and how selfish she can be, I'm actually surprised it took her that long to actually get with Five in this situation. People are annoyed that she was unfaithful to Diego, but to me this is true to her. This is who she has always been, and I believe that is a decision she would eventually come to. We can't talk about Lila without talking about Five. He's one of the other controversial ones because of this situation, and Five starts off without an apocalypse and without a family to save, which is unlike any other season start. He's found working at the CIA, which I take as him trying to scratch that hero itch, with him going on missions that revolve around the Keepers, this organization that believes in the multiverse. Because this world is shown to not be like the original and Hargreaves having more power, Fives is pursuing that and is unable to actually live this normal life he's always wanted. When he gets stuck in this multiversal railway, he does get with Lila, Diego's wife, and people say he would not betray his brother ever. But like I said earlier, they're trapped with zero hope of escape in this railway for 6 years. And during this time, he has found love and is able to live a normal-ish life, which is something he has always wanted since the first season. He does, however, find a way to escape this place and chooses not to tell Lila straight away, which is not a great decision. However, everybody sees it as he held onto that information for ages. I'm pretty sure he found it on the same day and just told her later at dinner, because it felt like he was lying to her to say it was longer, to purposefully make her not like him anymore and thus go back to Diego when they return. At least that's my take. In the end though, he is still Five. He does save his family, albeit they don't survive and live, but they were in this endless cycle of planetary destruction. They can never live a normal life because this death of the planet will always follow them. So he broke that cycle, and although they don't get to live, they are in peace whilst also saving the whole world. And all of that is just quintessential Five in my eyes. He may not have been as angry and energetic as we normally see him, but at the root, that is still the same character. Now, we'll talk about Diego next, and he in this season is a lot more goofy than normal, and he is very thirsty to go on another mission with his family. The last 2 seasons, we have actually got to see Diego's fun side, and him being a father to me will just let that out more, hence why we have him be more goofy this season with the baby shark jokes and then being a bit childish. It was all fun to see, but it still felt like that was Diego to me. As the most hero-like character in season 1 and even season 2, I fully believe that he really wants to go on another mission again, and great to see how enthusiastic he is about going on that road trip. I've already mentioned the issues him and Lila face together, and I think they explain themselves really. But because of this, by the end of the season, he is left alone and feels betrayed by family, which is much like his season 1 self, when he was a vigilante and did not like his family at all because of the betrayal he felt because of Victor's book they wrote. Now, Ben is slightly different, as he's not the original version that we knew in the first 2 seasons, and I have not really seen any complaints about him for this season. That's probably all due to him not really having a solid starting point anyway. Season 3, his character was a bit rough, but it's all still here this season, just toned down a bit, and allowing for the show to make make him a little bit more likable. And you get to see that with Luther and Jennifer, and it's quite nice. I believe his 4-year prison sentence fully bridged that gap. Like I said, he's probably the most well received this season, but I thought I would still mention him in this video as he's technically one of the family members. Let's talk about Allison next. So at the end of season 3, she got everything she could have ever wanted, despite her fully betraying her family. Somehow though, she still ends up probably one of the most miserable characters after losing Ray and being a struggling actor. At the end of season 3, she was in the best position out of all of them, and yet when we start season 4, she seems mentally in probably one of the worst places. There's not much Allison in season 4, so there's not much room for her to grow, but we end season 4 back where she started, with no husband. She is about to never see her daughter Claire ever again, perfectly mirroring what we see in the first season. At the start of the season, Victor's in a great spot. They've distanced themselves from the family and are living a great normal life. Victor's past life in this season brings him back in after 6 years, and learning that Reginald is also involved, Victor takes his chance to get closure, which they do get. Reginald owns up to his mistakes, albeit the mistakes of a different version of himself. During the mission in this season, Victor learns of the stakes and what will happen with Ben and Jennifer. Victor witnesses this character Ben, uninformed of a power he possesses, on a journey that will accidentally end the world. Who does that sound like? If you said Victor, you would be right. The process of getting to the apocalypse in this season is very similar to season 1, and this season shows Victor trying his best to do what his family couldn't for him in season 1. However, because of him attempting this, the world still ends. Once again, Victor indirectly causes the apocalypse. We both get to see him attempt what his family couldn't in season 1 to help him, and still see him somewhat causing the end of the world, which is a recurring theme for this character. Now, let's talk about Klaus. Here he is still as quirky as usual. Normally he's very carefree, but at the end of season 3 he lost his ability of immortality, which causes him here at the start of season 4 to be afraid of anything and everything that can cause him harm in the slightest. We then see the opportunity of them getting these powers back, but he chooses to not do that. He doesn't want the powers back, as this current fear he has of everything keeps him sober. When he ultimately is forced to get his powers back, it breaks him, causing him to steal from his family and betraying their trust, which is something he does in the early episodes of season 1, as well as returning to alcohol and drug use. By the end of season 4, we are essentially just looking at season 1 Klaus again. Finally, let's talk about Luther. We catch up with him, and he's a stripping squatter after supposedly not being able to find Sloane. Although he's in this situation, he is somehow the happiest character out of everyone, it seems, even being excited to actually see Sparrow Ben after his release from prison. Now, if you have caught on, for every character I've spoken about in this video, I have described to you what their character has been like, and it all involves them being almost identical to how they were when we first saw them as characters. However, Luther is the one exception. In season 1, he was definitely one of the least family-oriented of the group, only really caring for Allison and Reginald, really. He was even willing to just sacrifice Victor, albeit to try and save the world. But here, in the end, he gets his closure for his time spent on the moon. And unlike in season 1, he is the glue that holds his family together. Now, this all does tie in to the big theory I have around the characters this season. And the theory is that the finale and the story of this season was all trying to set up the importance of family and the importance of the growth their family has had. You might be asking what the hell that has to do with characters, and it might sound unrelated, but bear with me. In season 1, these characters could barely be in the same room together. Now they're willing to band together to stop any threat they come across. They will still argue and bicker, but they are still there for each other. This season did drastically change the characters, there's no denying that, but rather than grow them to be new people, it regressed them back to who they originally were. We have Victor, who is unable to stop the end of the world and is ultimately part of the problem in causing it. We have Five, who is determined to do anything he can to save his family and the world, even if it means their non-existence like we have here. We have Klaus going back to being a thieving junkie. Might not be as relevant to the plot, but he was like that in season 1. Allison, even having no husband and having a daughter she will never see again and not know the fate of. Diego here is back to feeling all alone like he did in season 1, and feels even betrayed by his family still. Despite these people having now similar lives again to what they had when we first met them, this time they are able to save the world and stop the apocalypse, as a result of their ever-improving familial bond, and Luther's character being the beacon of that. The show has always been about family, and obviously theirs in particular. Ending the show with them coming all together like this, yet still having all the flaws we saw in season 1, is such a fitting end to this show. These characters and people have never been perfect, so why change that now? They still have had the growth they've had over these 3 years. They've just regained the flaws we initially saw them have to kind of create that parallel between the two. And if anything, it shows the strength they have as a family better better than they could have otherwise. The execution of it may not be there fully, like it's not flawlessly explained or shown to be the case, and I want to believe that's because of the runtime cuts and budget cuts, but I can still see through that and believe that that is the intent Steve Blackman had when writing this. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on the whole out of character situation for this season. Let me know in the comments down below, did you really hate the characters? Did you enjoy the direction they took? I'd be super interested to hear what you have to say. With that said though, that is all I have for you today. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.